Hey, welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm JR. That's Zach. What a freaking game! Presented and brought to you by FanDuel. Or, I'm sorry, in the words of Fernando Mendoza, what a flippin' game. As he said at the end, holy cow, that was one of the best football games I've seen in a long, long time. Indiana comes out with the victory, 13-10. The SEC people are trying to say, oh, it was boring. There's too much defense. Those were the two best defenses in the country. Those were the two best quarterbacks in the country. That was the best game of the season, and I am fired up, ready to talk about this thing because it was so much fun to watch. Zach, what's your instant reaction?
Man, that was awesome. Like we're both Buckeye fans, but it was an excellent game. I had a number of people watching it downstairs. They're actually leaving as we're doing this show. It was a great game. And Fernando Mendoza, if he's not the Heisman winner, like, forget the Heisman. Who cares about the Heisman at this point? That dude has ice in his veins. He played lights out. I know it says 13 on the scoreboard, but it was the situational awareness. It was big play after big play, getting back up. It started with that first shot Caden Curry had on him, right? He gets back up, back in the next play. Dude was awesome. And Julian Sayin had a rough game, but he was learning and he was maturing throughout the game. And I think that's the thing. Like, there's a lot we'll talk about both sides. We talk about winners first, but I think if you're Ohio State, you're like, don't be discouraged. But you're curious about where they go from here. If you're Indiana, oh my gosh, that's awesome.
It's the best team in the country, hands down. Indiana is the best team in the country. Nobody can argue it. Nobody can fight about it. I mean, you just watch that football game right there. Ohio State has dominated everybody this season. Maybe not, Texas. It was a touchdown game, but still, it was 14-0 when Texas scored in that game. They've dominated everybody this season. They could not dominate the Hoosiers. I think, I made a video about it on Friday, and I got a ton of crap for it in the comments because everybody said, oh, no, Ohio State, they don't care about drama. They're always focused. At a certain point, you got enough drama going on. You can't focus on it. And Ryan Day and the Buckeyes did not look nearly as prepared. They did not look nearly as physical as, I hate to bring that physical stuff back up because it just feels like, I don't want to be calling them soft. They're not soft. Indiana's just that good of a team. But they did not come in as well prepared offensively for what Indiana threw at them. Defensively, Julian Sayin was seeing ghosts out there, and that's because I just want to call everybody in Indiana the best right now. Bryant Haynes, best defense coordinator in the country. Kirk Cinetti, best head coach in the country. Fernando Mendoza, best quarterback in the country. On FanDuel right now, Fernando Mendoza is minus 3,000 to win the Heisman Trophy, and it should be minus 4,000. It should be minus 5,000 at this point because Fernando Mendoza is winning that Heisman Trophy, and the only thing that can stop it at this point is if all the Southern people voted before the award. And if they did, screw them. They should all lose their votes. Every single one of them.
Absolutely.
Booger McFarland too. Booger McFarland said he's watched one Ohio State game this season. How many Indiana games has he watched? If he's only watched one Ohio State, I bet he hasn't watched any Indiana. Sorry, I had to talk about that at one point, but Holy cow, what a game, what a win for Indiana. A statement coming back. The Oregon win was a statement. But this feels like 10 times a statement based off what happened last season. Don't you think, Zach?
Well, it's the first time they've beat Ohio State since 1988. It's their first outright Big Ten title since World War II, or I think in that era. They beat the number one team in the country. I don't think have they ever done that in their history?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen any stats on that or anything, but Max sent us a super chat earlier, so I need to not forget that. And I think, yep, that's what it was. Okay. Max says, nobody beats Indiana 31 times in a row. Nobody. That's exactly right there, Max. Oh, my gosh. What a game. We got some people in here saying, like, I know you guys are Ohio State fans. You're going to be disappointed. I'm not disappointed at all. Like you said, that we grew up Ohio State fans and stuff like that. But, man, at the end of the day, I just love good football. Like, of course, I want the Buckeyes to win, but I unless you're just a diehard Buckeye and that's all you care about, and I get that, there's plenty of Buckeye fans out there like that. I don't understand how you can't watch this game and just, maybe not in the moment because you're feeling the pain of the loss, but you can't watch this game and be like, this is an amazing story. Everything that Indiana has been through, their history, what Kirk Cinetti has done. The turnaround here in Indiana, it's like nothing. Like even Clemson, the turnaround there, like yeah, Clemson was down in the gutters, but this feels so much
Not the
bigger than that.
same. It's not the same.
With how
Well,
quickly it happened too.
yeah. Oh, how quickly and like historically how bad Indiana had been, right? Like
Hmm.
they brought it up on the graphic. Second losingest program has the second most losses in college football history. How fitting was it that they knocked off the team that has the second most wins in college football history? By the way, tonight, first time in the Hoosiers history that they have ever beaten a number one ranked team.
Wow, whole lot of first tonight
Yeah.
with what's going on.
But I loved the reaction of Mendoza afterwards, like genuinely confident, but also like overcome with emotion. Man, I hate that Ohio State lost, but this Hoosier team is so much of what that honestly, this is why we wanted expansion.
Hmm.
It's teams like this because everybody will say Indiana didn't deserve to be there last year. But you know what? Last year leads to this year. That's why expansion needed to happen. And for all the haters who are like, it was perfect at 4, no, it wasn't, because this is the progress from year 1 to year 2.
Does Indiana get Mendoza if there was a 14 playoff last year?
Maybe, but I don't know if it's definitive, because if Mendoza wants to go to a playoff contender and Indiana has no way in, like I think you can make a pretty strong case that he doesn't.
Yeah, and I mean Miami was going after him too, right? I mean Miami's most likely not going to be in the playoffs. We'll get to that here in a little bit, but Miami's most likely not going to make the playoffs. And they would have had the brand to say, well, we can make a 14 playoffs, but Indiana can't, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
Indiana made the playoffs. Kirk Cinetti was able to talk all his stuff that he wanted to talk, and they're right back to it. So let's talk about the game. Those are our first reactions to everything. Let's talk about the game, though. So to me, I don't know about you, Zach, but to me, there were three big things in this game that happened with why Indiana was able to win. The three big things for me was that Indiana played excellent defense on
Mm-hmm.
second down to get Ohio State in third and long situations consistently. I believe the stat that they pulled up on the screen was like an average of third and 8.6 or something like that. Now, a lot of that has to do with Ohio State being in a third and 29 situation, but still, they were in third and long situations all day. That last drive, they were able to convert those, and you thought, oh my gosh, Ohio State's going to win this. But number two, it comes down to the special teams mistake. We had people saying it in the chat when we did our preview. It's going to come down to a special teams mistake, and Ohio State, Jaden Fielding, again, how many times in his career is he going to lose a game for Ohio State? And you know what? I don't think anybody should be mad at Jaden Fielding for that, because you know who kept trotting him out there year after year after year? Ryan Day. He kept trotting him out there. Even though they got a transfer kicker this past year, he said, no, I'm going to keep going with Jaden Fielding. Listen, I'm not trying to advocate for be upset with Ryan Day. He's one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the country. All right. But you cannot continue to let Jaden Fielding trot out there. And then number three, the fact that Indiana did not have to do anything super special on defense to stop
Yep.
Ohio State. And I don't mean schematics wise. I mean, you saw Ohio State got beat with the deep ball multiple times because they could not have their safeties over the top because they had to play their safeties in the box. Indiana did not have to do that. Indiana was able to play their safeties back. They were able to play back altogether, and their linebackers are so fast, they trigger so well that even the underneath throws were not able to get you more than 3, 4, 5 yards, because that's how fast the linebackers of Indiana trigger. That's how fast they're able to get to them. Absolutely crazy that Indiana was able to make this happen. Those are my three things. Do you have anything that you'd like to add to? I mean, the red zone is probably the other big thing, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think Indiana rolled with the punches better, right? Omar Cooper goes down. Charlie Becker freaking went off tonight. Like, he was arguably the best receiver in this game.
And he
6
was the
catches.
receiver that was lined up on Lorenzo Styles. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, and you made that point on Twitter, which I thought was good. But 6 catches, 126 yards, freshman. Like, I want to talk about big time players in big time games.
Charlie Becker's a freshman?
Is he? I think he's a freshman.
Maybe a redshirt freshman. I think he transferred in from somewhere.
Oh no, he's sophomore. Sophomore.
Okay, so
Sophomore
he
from
transferred.
Nashville,
Okay.
Tennessee. Gus made sure we knew that he was from Nashville all game long.
Gus
Love
also
you.
called Carnell Tate Tater. Gus,
He
no.
does that all the time. That's like his thing. I'm not saying
Sorry,
it's
go
a
ahead.
good thing, but that's his thing.
It's not a good thing. It's not
But yeah, I, I think the other thing too, like they rolled with the punches better, and like the running game wasn't great for Indiana, but it was effective enough. And I think to your point, like Ohio State's rushing game really was not good until really late third, early fourth quarter, and it was only Bo Jackson. Like Isaiah West had 3 carries for 4 yards. The other thing, and I mentioned this in the preview, I said if Indiana got at least 3 sacks, this game would be close. 6 sacks, I believe, in this game. I mean, it just was in peril all night long. And if they don't get pressure like that, like I think this game is different. But Indiana got tons of pressure in this game, and 5 sacks. It was 5 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. Isaiah Jones had 2 sacks. Hardy had a sack. Stephen Daly had a sack, and Landino had a sack. I mean, they were simulating pressures. They were confusing that offensive line all night. That to me, I think was the difference in the game was the way they were able to confuse Julian Sand and the way they were able to pressure him.
Yeah, for sure. Totally. Blue Wolverine comes in with a $10 super chat. Appreciate you being here, Blue Wolverine. He says, Deja Vu 13-10. Oh, why'd you have to bring that up? And a missed field goal, IU. Well, 2 missed field goals against Michigan last year. IU even has a McCarthy on their team. I will give some credit to the McCarthy magic, but I do think the majority of credit here goes to Indiana. Would you agree, Zach?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But I think we can label some McCarthy magic here. Man, what a finish. Thanks for the $10 there, Blue Wolverine.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
One other thing that we should mention as to what the red zone, right? Indiana, when it came down to it, was the touchdown to Elijah Surratt? Was that a that was a red zone touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
They scored when they needed to in the red zone. Ohio State did not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Failed 4th down conversion. They weren't able to get a touchdown. I think it's mid-second quarter. They had to settle for 3. Mm-hmm. Missed field goal. I mean, that's 3 opportunities where, and I remember saying it when we were watching it, 7-3. Like if Ohio State gets to 14, this game gets really uncomfortable. They never got to 14.
No, they weren't able to. Ohio State was 2 of 4 in the red zone, and Indiana was 3 of 4. I mean, you had the quarterback sneak that didn't work for Ohio State, and I mean, like I think there's going to be some people that go at Ohio State for that, but I did think Ohio State got enough push with their offensive line. It's just Julian Sand is not Will Howard. He cannot stay up like Will Howard can, and he wasn't able to stay up there. The missed field goal, but the credit goes to Indiana. They put Ohio State in those situations, and Ohio State just was not able to get the power rushing that they needed in this one to get the short yard situations. And you're right. Ohio State really only had Bo Jackson. You had a couple receptions by CJ Donaldson, but really the only running back you were able to have in this game was Bo Jackson. And I also think it's crazy that going into this game, everybody wanted to talk about how Indiana couldn't run the ball on, Iowa and Oregon and all these teams. And I presented the sack adjusted stats to you guys. I said, look, they've rushed for over 100 yards, sack adjusted, in every single one of these games. In this game, Indiana on paper only had 118 rushing yards, but sack adjusted because Ohio State had 3 sacks. It's 128, and that's about as many as they had, I believe, against Iowa. Sack adjusted. I've thrown away my paper. No, I have it right here. That is the most sack adjusted rushing yards they have against Iowa, Oregon, Penn State, and Wisconsin this season. So the people out there that said that Indiana wasn't going to be able to run the ball on Ohio State,
I'm guilty.
Zach.
I'm guilty.
Sorry, Zach. You were dead wrong, man. For Indiana, and some of it, not just their running backs, but like you said, variety. Mendoza was able to get some draws. He was able to move the chains a little bit too. I thought it was huge that they basically took Arvell Reese out of this game. Arvell Reese was really not even really a factor in this game. He chased
Yeah.
down Mendoza one time, but it was really the defensive line, the offensive line for Indiana was able to get to the second level and lock down Arvell Reese. Sonny Styles made some plays, definitely,
Yep.
but when you take Arvell Reese out of a game, it really changes everything for Ohio State's defense.
Yeah. The way this game went, Indiana flipped the script where they controlled the game. And that's the first time all season for Ohio State that they were not in control and they didn't really control the game. And I think there's been so much, let's talk about Ohio State a little bit, but I think Ohio State was so focused on, we got to let it rip. It's a fast track. They're so comfortable in trying to control and pound. Indiana just stayed who they were. We're like, we know who we are. We're efficient. Let's go. And again, I think that comes down to coaching, comes down to how they called this game. Oh, man, I can't. There are 13, like Ohio State, Michigan last year it was not a good game by either team. This was a 13-10 game where I just thought both teams played their hearts out. Like it was good defense, two young quarterbacks, one who I think really, really shined throughout. And I think Julian saying we saw, okay, this is his youth. It was not a good game. It was not a great game for him. I shouldn't say it wasn't a good game. I thought he got better as the game went, but so many props to Indiana for the way that they played.
I would say it was more of a bad game for Ohio State's offensive line than Julian saying.
Well, we'll go there in a minute. We'll go there in a minute.
Well, so and I wouldn't say it's all just on Ohio State's offensive line that they're bad or anything like that. Ohio State's offensive line has been good this season. They only allowed 7 sacks on the season, and they allowed 5 in this one. That's not because Ohio State's offensive line forgot how to block. Yes, they have a right guard position that's not been addressed all season long, but Tegra's also played better in some of these bigger game situations, so you've kind of been relying on that from him. In this one, you had Indiana take advantage of the offensive line for Ohio State multiple times. And as much as people want to say, I get the holding stuff, there was some pretty egregious holding on Indiana in this game. Ohio State's offensive line was holding too. This was a game where both lines were holding. Maybe one side had more than the other. Okay, I'm not going to come up here and act like one side was holding and one wasn't, because it's just not the case. But both sides were holding in this one. Kirk Kennedy was going crazy, just like Ryan Day was going crazy. I kind of wish they would call it more, but at the same time, I also like that they're just letting them play. So, it's catch-22. It is what it is.
Yeah. I appreciated that Joel Klatt called it out on the broadcast.
Yeah, he did a good job with that. So, Ryan Day was calling plays in this one. Did you think that too?
If he is, my criticism's going to shift then.
Well, I don't think Brian Hartline's going to be with him in the playoffs. Did you catch what Ryan Day said on the Big Ten Network earlier today?
No, I thought he was going to be with them the whole time.
So that's what I was told, and I tweeted that out there, and then that was also seconded by a couple other Ohio State beat reporters. But I was also told that if he doesn't, Keenan Bailey will be the offensive coordinator. And I was like, well, if he doesn't, okay, why are you saying that he will? And then on Big Ten Network today, Ryan Day said, and Hartline will be with us to finish out this game, or something like that. I need to pull the direct quote. I wrote it down somewhere, but it was like, to finish out this game is basically what he said, and I was like, that doesn't seem right. Why is it just finish out this game? Why isn't it finish out the season? And I'm wondering if maybe Ryan Day took back play calling because he knew that he was going to be calling plays in the playoffs.
If he took back play calling, he needs to kick the rust a little bit more, because I thought more than anything else that was the biggest weakness of this game, was offensive play calling.
How so?
I
definitely think the red zone had issues, and I can
red zone
see that.
I just felt that and I felt this for a while for Ryan Day. He telegraphs things. Like I was calling it, I was on the couch and multiple times I'm like, they're going to probably try to do this here. And that's what they did. And Indiana knew, which by the way, props to Bill Landis, who pointed out Indiana pretty much has had 3 weeks to prepare for this game. They had a bye, and then they had Purdue, and then they had Ohio State, and then they had Ohio State. And like, I'm pretty sure they weren't thinking, well, we'll face Oregon again, or we'll face Michigan. I'm pretty sure they were like, we're probably going to face Ohio State. They've had the prep time. And so regardless of what you think of whether like emotions played into this for Ohio State or whatnot, the reality is Indiana has had 3 essentially distraction-free weeks to study Ohio State. And Ohio State has had to deal with the Michigan win, the loss of Brian Hartline, trying to sign Chris Henry, and keep their recruiting class intact. I know Indiana had to do that too, but it wasn't nearly as crazy.
Yeah, but Indiana's isn't as high profile as Ohio State. When you're as high profile as Ohio State, you have some of these guys that get the big offers. Like, I mean, I don't even want to tell you how much money Chris Henry Jr. was offered by Texas and Oregon, which again, if you know me, I'm not somebody that's going to come on here and bash Oregon for that, because I say, if you got the money, go use it. Go get the best players out there, because that's the game right now.
Yeah. But I say all that that's not to denigrate the loss. I just think, to your point, Indiana was sharper. They were faster to the ball. And I just think you could tell if Ryan Day was calling the plays or if Brian Hartline was calling plays. I don't know who was, but it just kind of felt like it was business as usual. And they kind of just assumed we're going to be able to go deep and we're going to be able to run on a fast track. And it's like, you should rethink this.
I do want to push back just a little bit, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but I do want to push back just because I do think that if that's the case, there could be issues for Indiana in the playoffs. I think Bryant Haynes is the best defensive coordinator in the country after this performance that he was able to put on. And I think that his players obviously added to that as well. And it wasn't just Haynes. I mean, there were plays made by some of the Indiana players. Like, how many times did Hardy, I think it was at least 2 or 3 times, Hardy not just made plays, but he also stopped Bo Jackson from getting some of these runaway runs that would have just completely, put Ohio State in a much, it would put Ohio State in a much better situation. But Hardy and Aiden Fisher made a couple too. Like, these guys were just able to make the play at the right moment in time to be able to stop Ohio State. It felt like Ohio State had opportunities here and there, but they just weren't able to make them, whether it was because Ohio State, flustered or the Indiana player made the play. I think more often than not, the Indiana player made the play. But before I get your comments on that, I do want to bring up Blue Wolverine. Another $10 super chat. Thank you, Blue Wolverine. Said, did anyone else here guess at the end? Give him the trophy. He said real slow before the break. I did hear him scream like that's the Heisman winner, but I did not hear the give him the trophy. Did you hear that, Zach?
I didn't, but I approve this message.
Yeah, I mean, Fernando Mendoza should definitely win the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah. If it's Pavia, like, I think, well, if it's Pavia, screw the award and just win the national championship. Like, that's just, it'd be stupid. But
so we'll have some more kind of like detailed, but like less reaction stuff. Like, we're giving you just kind of like raw reactions right now, right? So we're going to give you some more details Sunday night, because we'll talk about this game again and obviously what it means. But I do think we have to talk about the Heisman really fast. I think a lot of people are going to look at this and say, well, Fernando Mendoza, look at the stats. He didn't actually have that good of a game. 15 of 23, 222 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Like, and by the way, both Julian Sayin and Fernando Mendoza both had 151 QB rating in this game. They both played fantastic. It's just Julian Sayin did not get the plays in the moments when he needed them, like Fernando Mendoza did. Julian Sayin got the big play to Jeremiah Smith, which, by the way, how much different would this game be if Julian Sayin led Jeremiah Smith and Jeremiah Smith kept running and got a touchdown on that instead of having to stop,
Yep.
So, but let's talk about Fernando Mendoza. The stats do not show that he had a fantastic game, but I even tweeted out there like it just felt like every time Indiana needed a throw, needed a play. I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, he made it, or oh my gosh, the receiver made that play. Whatever it was, they made it when they needed it, time and time again, and that's displayed in the
Ice in his
third
veins.
downs. Indiana was 6 of 13 on third downs. I mean, give people the case for why Mendoza should win the Heisman, even though the stats were not necessarily anything astronomical in this one.
I mean, he just led his team to the number 1 seed in the whole tourney. And he did it for a team that last year got ran off the field by the 2 national championship participants. And he just beat the defending national champions in a split crowd, getting popped in the most highest of stakes. And now he has wins not just over the number 1 team in the country, but the number 5 team in the country at their place. Right. So, and he did it like it was because of his performance. Yes, the defense, you have to credit the defense. But if Mendoza's not playing, are we really sure that they're able to keep Ohio State's defense on the field as long as they are? Like, are they getting those long passes to Charlie Becker? Like this, people are going to look at the 13 and think this, this was not a good offense. This was not, dare I say, Georgia, Alabama, where both offenses sucked and they stunk. Especially
and part of it was good defense, but it was largely bad offense by both of them.
Yeah. But Georgia, like Indiana, they got out of jams. Like they were often had bad field position. They were able to get to the 50, which was huge.
Sorry.
That's all right. So they're punting and pinning Ohio State back and forcing Ohio State into long fields. Able to, he did all the little things right. And some people will say, well, is that really Heisman worthy? And my answer is, did he just win the Big Ten? Did he just beat the number 1 team in the country? Did he just earn his team the number 1 seed? Yeah, give him the Heisman. That's worthy of it.
Well, and it goes back exactly to what something that Chris Fowler said, and we're going to transition into the playoff talk here. Like I said, we'll have more on the game tomorrow night, but these are just kind of our raw, kind of instant reactions to it. But it goes back to something Chris Fowler said tonight. He said, you got teams like Texas, which lost to Ohio State early, took a non-conference game, tough game, won the stat battle, but lost on the scoreboard. I'm sorry. What is the goal of the game? Is it to have more yards or is it to win the game? Right now it's to win the game, and that's what Fernando Mendoza did. So let's transition. Or go ahead.
I was just say Juck on Bucks tweeted it out, and I just replied, translation, I didn't watch the game.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like
I don't know what else to say.
People that make that argument about Ohio State, Texas, I'm like, Ohio State dominated that game, and they played it to their strengths, which was smart.
Yeah.
Don't at me with that stat battle crap. Like, it's stupid.
Precisely. So, all right, you guys are doing great in the chat. We appreciate you being here. They're all letting us know that Duke did in fact win the ACC. Yes, Philip, I agree. The doomsday for Duke at this point looks like it has happened, and that's why we will bring up. Whoops, hold on. And that's why we will bring up. Here we go. What looks like this is my projection of the playoffs. Now, please hear me out. This is not what I want to happen. This is not what I think should happen. This is what I'm predicting will happen. I am predicting that in the playoffs, with Duke winning, that you will not see the ACC in the college football playoffs. I believe you're going to see James Madison. Now, Bob Chesney has officially signed with UCLA, I do believe. I got my UCLA shirt on tonight, so that way I wouldn't be biased one way or the other for Indiana or Ohio State. You're welcome. But however, I did pick Indiana, so I do want to put that out there. But James Madison is most likely going to be the 12, but there is some issue there because James Madison did lose their coach, Bob Chesney. Is Chesney sticking around to continue to coach? Is he at UCLA or is he at UCLA now? I don't know. That could impact things. We'll see. But Ole Miss didn't get moved when they lost their head coach. So, but at the same time, we have Kirk Herbstreit saying that, Alabama shouldn't move for losing their game, but BYU should drop in the rankings. So did you hear that too, Zach?
I'm to the point where we just throw things to the wall to justify our opinions.
Yeah.
Which is what it's always been. But
it's wild to see ESPN do it so blatantly.
Oh, and Chris Fowler says it's not biased. It's like, it absolutely is biased. Yeah. Like, we're biased. We own it. Like, we're biased Big Ten homers, but we also caveat that.
And how many times have I said on this show before, I am like more so biased toward the Big Ten that I'm actually comfortable with, because I know that nothing's going to actually change until people actually start seeing, okay, this might be an overreaction, but there's some truth here, right? It's the same thing that Kirk Cinetti did at Indiana. He came in and said, Purdue sucks, Michigan sucks, and Ohio State sucks, right? Now, does Ohio State suck? No, they do not. But he did just beat Ohio State. Yep. He did just beat Ohio State. He went out, he beat all three of those teams. It was an over-exaggeration, at least for one team on there. Michigan doesn't suck. But at least for one team on there, it was an over-exaggeration. But he still got his point across that we are going to go out and beat these teams. You wait. Yep. And in 2 years, he made it happen. He won the Big Ten. That's why I have Indiana at number 1. I have Georgia at number 2. I just think, don't get me wrong, I think Ohio State should be number 2. Based off that performance, but you're going to get people picking them apart. Right. Alabama, they blew out Alabama, yada, yada, yada. And then Ohio State number 3. They're not dropping to 4. They're not going to put Ohio State and Indiana on the same side of the bracket. And then Texas Tech number 4. What do you think about the top 4 in the buys?
Well, a couple things. I think if Ohio State's 3 and their next game is between Tulane and Ole Miss, I think Ole Miss might be the sucker out of all the SEC teams. And I like Ohio State's draw more than anybody else out of those buys. Because you have Indiana playing Notre Dame or Oklahoma. If they get Oklahoma, I think Indiana wins fairly easily. But if they get Notre Dame, I think that's a tough draw for Indiana.
I would still pick Notre Dame, but I agree it would be a more difficult matchup than Oklahoma.
Yeah. Texas Tech, have fun playing Oregon. That's all I got to say.
Oregon's going to destroy them. They do not have the speed they need to beat in Oregon.
That BYU Texas Tech game I'm pretty sure BYU makes Iowa look fast.
The announcers in that game said Texas Tech might have the best defensive line in the country.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Listen, Texas Tech has a very good defensive line. They've got some good transfers in. But we can't act like Indiana, because they don't have a whole bunch of 4 stars and 5 stars, isn't something great, and then turn around and say, well, Texas Tech got all their, defensive linemen from UCF and Houston, and they're the best defensive line. They're not. They're not. Indiana has the best defensive line in the country. We just saw why.
Yeah.
So.
I think I would probably, if I were ranking it, I'd probably have Indiana 1, Ohio State 2. But I think Georgia, to their credit, they beat up, at the time ranked Georgia Tech team, held them to 9 points, held Alabama to 7. I know we can pick them apart because we love to, but they've really, I feel like, turned a corner over the past few weeks. Mm-hmm. And I don't have a problem with them being number 2.
Mm-hmm. Now, A. Wilhelm here, appreciate you being here, has it almost exactly the way I would have it. Now, personally, I would have Indiana 1, Ohio State 2. However, I do think that Wilhelm here is trying to project it. So I get that. But same top 4 as me. And then mine after that, I guess I need to state this before we read Wilhelm's here. Number 5, Oregon. Number 6, Ole Miss. 7, Texas A&M. 8, Notre Dame. 9, Oklahoma. 10, I still have Alabama in there because I do not think they will drop them out. I just don't think it'll happen. And then number 11, Tulane. Number 12, James Madison. Wilhelm here has it number 9, Miami, and then number 10, Notre Dame. I think that is how it should happen, but I don't think that's how it will happen. Zach, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, again, if I were on the committee, well, actually, so I was again watching with my friends, and one of my coworkers, I work with him in ministry. He was like, you're a media member, right? I'm like, yes. He's like, do you think you'll ever get on the committee? I'm like, no. But if I did, I would work to undermine it and destroy it from the inside because they're awful. I think we should try to do that now that our evil plan is on air. But I don't think they're going to drop Alabama. If I were there, I would, because I think the justification that, well, maybe like then we're not going to play the conference championship game. I'm so sick of these SEC crybabies threatening to stop playing games because they're not getting what they want. Alabama was awful today. They were terrible. And they've been terrible for a month. And they were rewarded because they beat a 5-7 Auburn team by 7 points. Who cares? And then they didn't show up today. You know what? They should be punished. And you know who shouldn't be punished is Miami, right? Because Miami actually beat a team that we're projecting into the field, and they have the same record as them. And so I think the easy thing to do, Miami 9, Notre Dame 10, but you know who's not going to allow that? ESPN. And they're going to cite, well, Alabama had a 4-game stretch of all these wins against ranked teams, which half of them aren't ranked anymore.
They'll probably say that, Alabama got up 17-0 on Auburn. That was really impressive. It was really impressive when Alabama scored a touchdown and made it 21-7 against Georgia. So we kept them in there.
They were non-competitive in this game.
They were.
And then Ty Simpson has the audacity to say, we are the best offense in the country.
He just got the antidote of confidence from PJ Fleck. He got the antidote of confidence.
Yeah, and he's had the success of the antidote of confidence this year with Minnesota too. Ouch. They went 7-5.
The Big Ten now. Come on.
Well, I'm just.
What have you turned into, Zach?
I'm correlating. I'm like, yeah. Anyway,
so I will say one thing that people have not brought up about this Bama thing, because Michael is saying John Bama is out. And Michael, I think they should be too. I just don't think it will happen. They should be, not just because they lost. I'm not even saying they should be out because they lost. I do think that if you lose in championship weekend, that it is wrong for you to get completely out. Okay? I do think that's wrong because not everybody else is playing. But the thing that's not being talked about here is, Zach, who was Alabama's best win?
Vandy?
Georgia.
Oh, Georgia. Duh. Georgia.
If your best win beats you again, is it still your best win anymore? In my mind, it should subtract itself out. Right?
Yeah.
You don't get credit for the Georgia win anymore because you just lost to Georgia. Sure, it was an extra credit game. I get it. Miami wasn't playing this weekend, but you can't tell me that wasn't just a fluke game. And that's what we've seen from Alabama this entire time that Kalen DeBoer has been there. It's been fluke after fluke after fluke. Flukes in the losses, and now we're discovering it's flukes in the wins as well, because this Alabama team is not nearly as good as people say. I know I have them number 10 on my thing. I do not think they should be number 10 in the playoffs. It should be Notre Dame at number 10 and Miami at number 9. But unfortunately, I don't think it'll happen. And honestly, the bright side of it is that Indiana might get to face Notre Dame, and that would be a rematch of the playoffs last year. It would just be one more way that Indiana could redeem themselves after last year. Go ahead, Zach.
Well, I think the thing that's frustrating, you can find a way to make things that the committee has cared about to make arguments for Alabama, but it goes both ways, right? So what have they said about Notre Dame over Miami? Well, Notre Dame looks better. Okay. Notre Dame looks better. And so that nullifies their head-to-head. Guess what? Alabama has looked like garbage.
They've looked awful to end the season. Yes.
Yeah. They've looked terrible. And so if you're going to use that to prop up one team, then you need to use it to penalize other teams. Alabama has looked terrible. Another argument that they'll say is we don't want to punish teams that lose on championship weekend. Okay, well then BYU should be in, right? That's how this works.
Yep.
But BYU was 11. They were fighting for their championship lives. Well, then why is Alabama not? Like they were on the cut line just a week ago. But for some reason, because Alabama played 5-7 Auburn and was up 17-0 at half, they jumped Notre Dame. Why? Like it's just insanity. You can like all the metrics that they will use to justify Alabama's existence. You can cut both ways. And I think that's the frustrating thing about this. Even like the top 25 wins, it's like, okay, now look at their schedule and tell me how many top 25 wins they have. They have Georgia, good for them. They have Vandy, good for them. Missouri's not ranked anymore in the CFP.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee's not ranked in the CFP anymore.
No, they're not.
And they've lost to Oklahoma. And by the way, they have that albatross of a loss to another 5-7 team known as Florida State, aka a team that did not win the ACC.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I totally agree. We got a gift given by Racer TTT. Appreciate you being here. Racer TTT gifted 1 membership of the Big Ten Huddle with John Rhodes as membership. I had somebody tell me one time I should put my name in the thing there, so I don't think anybody noticed when I changed that, but I did. So I was like, I guess I should. YouTube metric stuff there. Yeah. And then Evil Badger. Or go ahead.
I was just say you've been JR for so long. We just shifting to John.
Yeah, there we go. Which people are calling me John in the chat now, which it does feel more realistic, more natural. But you're not going to call me John. I've told you multiple times to call me John.
No, I'll get there. 2035, we'll get there.
If we're still doing this podcast by 2035, I'm going to need the Big Ten to be noticed as the best conference because my blood pressure is going to be far too high if I keep screaming about the SEC until then. Anyway, Evil Badger, Ryan Willie says, totally agree with Zach about the SEC. Sankey wants all the at-large bids to SEC teams. Yeah, he did say today he wanted 7 SEC teams in there.
Well, you know what?
How insane is that?
I want to like spend a night in Cinderella's royal castle, like at Disney World, but that's never going to happen either. So like zip it.
Yeah. Zip it.
I love Disney. I'm sorry. I just
thank you, Evil Badger, for the $5. In fact, I will tell everybody. I don't think I've told anybody this. This entire podcast, the past few months, has been funding my family's trip to Disney. So as much as you guys are helping us and talking about like how great the pod is, I appreciate you guys and I appreciate your super chats because me and my family would not be able to go to Disney.
Wait, when are you going to Disney?
March.
So, okay, we need to talk offline.
We're still saving up for it. But anyway, I have a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they are just absolutely ecstatic to go. Anyway, I don't need to disclose everything about my family's life on here. Trojan Fight says, so we're getting 2 G5 teams in. Yeah, so I said this a little bit, but I didn't get your thoughts on it, Zach. The only way I could see James Madison not making it is if they punish them for the Bob Chesney thing. Now, I will say Iowa was above James Madison at 8-4 in the college football playoff rankings. So it's not completely insane to think that Duke could jump in if you already have an 8-4 team in there. You have Duke beat Virginia. Could they jump in? Would they jump over James Madison? I mean, we don't know where they have people at for like 26, 27, 28. I would guess they would say, actually, we had Duke right outside of the top 25, right behind, which seems asinine to me. But I suppose that could happen. I suppose the demotion because of Bob Chesney going to UCLA could happen. I don't know. What do you think will happen, Zach?
I think it's hard because, so Duke beat Virginia, but Virginia went on the road and beat them by 17 like 3 weeks ago. So, I mean, they avenged the loss there, but I mean, their schedule, they got beat 45-19 by Illinois, who is an 8-4 team in the Big Ten. I could see, here's what I think So this is why the one reason why I think Miami might get in. I don't think they're putting Duke in. Like I really don't think they're. I don't think they're. But I don't think they are going to. I think they're going to want to throw a bone to the ACC. So I do think there is a real possibility that it is Miami and not Notre Dame.
But they haven't thrown the bone to the ACC before. They left Florida State out when they were undefeated.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen. I'm just saying, like, I just wonder if, because Duke's not getting in. Like, I just don't, the schedule's not good enough.
The wins aren't good enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and even beating Virginia is like Virginia, if we were in the old system, Virginia would have been the four seed in last year's version, but it wasn't by much, right? Like Tulane's 20, Virginia 17. Like that's not that big of a win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. We'll see what happens. I do think your point about they don't want to leave the ACC out is interesting, but they did it to Florida State. But the thing I have to remind myself every time when we talk about this stuff and we talk about the past is that the committee does not care what they've done in the past. It's a similar issue that you have with the AP poll, right? Is that they don't care what the parameters are, what they're supposed to do, what they've been told to do. All they care about is what do we think right now. And the committee has shown that they are not consistent throughout the years. So that's another issue that teams have. And also, if you do end up putting Notre Dame in and not Miami, it's going to continue to show teams it does not matter who you beat. Head-to-heads do not matter. All that matters are style points and brand. And I think that is going to be something that kills that kills parity in this sport if we try to acknowledge, oh, it's all about brand and how many style points you have. Because let's face it, Indiana had a ton of style points last year. They didn't have as many style points at times this year. Almost lost to Iowa, almost lost to Indiana, or almost lost to Penn State. Those are teams that, had multiple losses you should not have almost lost to. But Indiana showed it doesn't matter about style points. They still went out and win this game against Ohio State, and they're the number one team in the country, as they should be. So a few other comments I want to bring up, and then we can get final thoughts on this. Steven says, if you guys are Buckeye fans, thank you for the class and joy you are displaying. And Andrew says, I didn't even know JR was a Buckeye fan. That's amazing. Total class act. Thanks, guys. We really appreciate it. We try our best to be unbiased on here. We acknowledge everybody has bias. Like, it's always going to come out at some point. But we try our best to be as unbiased as we possibly can. So, but you guys coming in and saying best CFP podcast in the country, love this show. That lets us know that we think we're probably doing something right. So thank you.
We appreciate you guys.
Yeah, we
really appreciate you.
So, let's see. Any final thoughts? I'm going to search through the comments really fast to make sure we got as much as we possibly could, but any final thoughts on the playoff bracket here, Zach?
I think this is the most likely scenario, what you've put out. I do think there is a chance that Miami is in over Notre Dame. I think that would make, and I have a lot of friends that are Notre Dame fans. And so part of me is like, I would want to see Notre Dame in this tournament because I think they're really good. But I just, again, if you're going to have a Miami Notre Dame game scheduled and then all of a sudden it's like, by the way, that game doesn't count. Like that to me, more than Texas whining about losing to Ohio State, that to me would be more of the death knell of non-conference scheduling. So I just think that has to stick in the craw of the committee a little bit. I really hope that there is discussion that Bama was not good enough. And like, if we're going to treat BYU as, well, they weren't good enough, like they were non-competitive today. And they've been more than mid the past few weeks. And I think they should be punished for it. And I have family that love Alabama. I actually don't have a vendetta against Alabama. I like them. I like Kalen DeBoer. But if we're going to judge this based on how we judge other teams, then guess what? Like what you've been saying about everybody else, Bama has all those knocks against it, but I'm not into. I don't think enough. I am not high on the committee making the right decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not either. And I think that's why we have to get rid of the committee as soon as we possibly can. And that kind of
Yeah.
goes into Wilhelm here. The question a little bit. What do you guys think about a 16-team playoff, all Power Four champion game team, all Power Four championship game teams get in with top G5 conference champ and 7 wild cards. So I have always been auto bids for conferences. I don't like how many at-larges there are. I think you need
No.
a couple at-larges because you do need some of those nuanced situations. But I don't think you should have so many wild cards out there. And I think, honestly, I'm really, really rooting for Alabama to not be in, because if that happens, I do think we are going to be closer to making that happen, because the SEC, I mean, Stuart Mandel said it on Twitter, the SEC will get rid of the conference championship game as quick as they possibly can if Alabama doesn't make it in there. But they're not going to just get rid of it. They're going to find something to put there instead that makes them money. You know what would make them money? Play-in games for the college football playoff. So you could technically keep it at like 12 teams or something like that, but just have play-in games. You could technically do 16 teams and just have play-in games, I think. I think there's a way to do that there. But I am all for a 16. 24 is so much. I still can't completely get on board with it, but whatever we can do to try and have a play-in game weekend instead of a conference championship weekend is what I'm in favor of, because I didn't like watching games today and knowing these really didn't matter. The Ohio State Indiana one did matter because of off the field, kind of like non-playoff related stuff, like how much it meant for Indiana, stopping the winning streak of Ohio State, all kinds of stuff like that. So that did matter, but you don't get that in every conference championship game. More often than not in the SEC, you're going to get Alabama or Georgia or both of them playing each other, and then you're going to get two Big 12 teams that, like, the undermatched one can make the playoffs if they win, but the big one is Texas Tech is most likely going to win the game, just like Texas Oklahoma State last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or 2 years ago. Texas was obviously going to win that game. Oklahoma State never stood a chance. So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah. Any thoughts on that before we move on, Zach?
Yeah, I think I think I've said this before on this show. Anything that gets rid of subjectivity I'm in favor of. They do it in high school ball, right?
Yeah.
They have a formula where they rank schedules by strength of schedule, and it's all like, it's sterile. It's like calculated, and it's set before the season. The thing that's frustrating is that the way our sport is right now, everything's subjective, and once things are decided, people are then up in arms about the decisions that they made like in place this season. Case in point, group of 5 teams being in, people are up in arms. It's like, group of 5 teams shouldn't be in unless ... Hey guys, you said this was what you wanted. Like, why are you surprised? You knew that this was this is where this was going.
Well, and if group of 5 teams are ever going to get on the Power 4 level, the only way that happens is with access. And it's why you see a lot of SEC people, and don't fall into this trap, guys. Like, you have to realize how much of the national media is a trap out there. Do not fall into the trap of, the group of 5, their own playoff system. I get it. It sounds really good, but the whole reason that happens is so that the group of 5 stays in their own little bubble, stays in their own little place. The more access you give, the more opportunity you give, the better teams are going to get, because people actually see a glimmer of hope now, right? It's why the group of 5 got better after Boise State beat Oklahoma in the bowl game. Well, guess what? When there weren't any more upsets for a while, tapered off. It went down. Last year, you saw Boise State get to the 3 seed in the playoffs. Sure, it was a pretty undeserving 3 seed, but they got there as a 3 seed in the playoffs. You saw more opportunity. You saw more access for that to happen, and it makes it so that more teams are going to be able to bring in talent. They're going to be able to pay for their coaches, and they're going to be able to have a better product on the field, which at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want a better product on the field. We don't want Power 4 teams to just kill G5 teams every time they play. At least I don't. I don't know if that's what anybody else wants, but that's what That's what I don't want. So, last thing I'll ask you here, Zach, because Hummus Hero brought it up. And by the way, props to you for being here, Hummus Hero, an Ohio State fan,
Mm-hmm.
going outside of the Ohio State channels right now. Props to you for doing that. And we appreciate you being here too. Hummus Hero said, I think Oregon potentially could end up like last year's Ohio State, flying under the radar and loaded with talent. I think as long as they get some of those wide receivers back and they get injury free, which I think that it was good for them. They didn't play in the Big Ten championship game, so they can focus on getting more injury free. I think Hummus Hero is right. If I'm going to pick a dark horse in this scenario to win like a non-top 4 team to win the playoffs, I think Oregon would probably be my pick.
Yeah, I think Oregon has a fairly favorable path up until the semifinals where they'd have a rematch, presumably with Indiana.
Yeah, yeah. And they've seen each other before. I think that's the best way to be able to beat a team is to see them again, right? You know what kind of stuff Indiana runs. You know how that defensive line beat you last game. And that offensive line for Oregon looks like they've been improved since that game. So, yeah.
Yep.
All right, Zach, should we get to our final thing?
Sure.
All right, our final thing to end it, because I did not make a video last night. I apologize. But Penn State, the waiting is over. They've not fired. Do not believe that. They have hired Matt Campbell as their head coach. Zach, I have a lot of issues. We'll talk about the hire here in a second, but I have a lot of issues with the way people are framing this hire as like, well, Matt Campbell's just going to be fired in a couple years because you can't please the Penn State fan base, which I see that coming from a lot of national media type of people, which again, you listen to this show, number one, because, we're obviously Big Ten centric, but also we challenge the national media on a lot of things that honestly are just kind of bullcrap, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of national media, when they first talk about this, say, well, if Matt Campbell doesn't win a national championship in the first 2 or 3 years, are they going to keep him around? That is not Penn State fans. Like, people do not have an understanding. They went from a coach who was around for 46 years to a coach that stayed for 2 years and then went to the NFL. Sorry, he went and he left on his own. He didn't even get fired. And then they kept a coach around for 12 years that couldn't even win 5 games against top 10 teams in those 12 years he was there. Now, albeit first 2 or 3 years was coming back from sanctions and stuff like that. But that had already started with Bill O'Brien 2 years before too. So it's not like he spent all 12 years doing that. So this whole idea of like, well, Matt Campbell better be careful. He's just going to be fired in 2 or 3 years if he doesn't win a national championship, if he doesn't win the Big Ten. That is not the pulse of this Penn State fan base. Do they have expectations? Absolutely they have expectations, but they're not the type of team that is like completely unreasonable. That's Alabama. That's Georgia. Those are the type of teams. And yes, Ohio State too. Those are the type of teams that are that way. Penn State might become that way at some point if they have enough success, but that is not what Matt Campbell is walking into here. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I agree. So people forget I've been around the Penn State program. Like, I lived there and they love their people, but like, let's not forget that before James Franklin got there, even before Bill O'Brien, like Joe Paterno basically could have retired when he wanted to, and his tenure did not end. Obviously he got fired because of Sandusky,
right? Yeah, obviously it didn't.
Yeah. But
you're saying on the field,
like they were willing to be patient with him, even though he didn't end super well on the field either. And then, like James Franklin, he had 2 7-6 seasons. And then, yes, he had a couple of big, like 11-win seasons. They went to the Rose Bowl, won a Big Ten championship game. But like, he won the Big Ten his 3rd season. And he did not go back to the Big Ten championship game until 2024. And they kept him around. And they said, yeah, like, it's great. We like him, but we'd love it if he beat Ohio State like more than once. And we'd love it if he won big games more than a couple times. And like, the reason why he got fired was they put everything into this season. Like, they put all their chips in the table and they got rewarded with 3-3 with losses to UCLA and Northwestern. Like, yeah, that's not good enough. And it's been 12 years, but Matt Campbell, nobody is expecting him to win. Like some people are expecting him to struggle to get to 6-6 this next season, which looking at their schedule, if they hit the transfer portal right, if they do NIL right, it's a possible
They could still win 8 games next year.
they could win 8. They could win more than that,
They
possibly.
could, yeah. I think the floor is probably 7 right now as we speak, but that floor could easily be raised up to 8.
Yeah. And so I don't know. Like I think people who think Matt Campbell is going to get fired in 3 years, it would have to go really badly for him to get fired in 3 years.
Oh yeah, it'd have to be like no bowl games and stuff like that. And I see some people saying like Matt Campbell's not actually that good of a coach. Matt Campbell was doing things in less than 10 years at Iowa State that Iowa State had not done in their entire history. They have like a history of like 110 years before Matt Campbell. He won almost as many bowl games as they won in those 110 years. He had a better winning percentage in his time by like 20% than what Iowa State had those few years before. Like Matt Campbell took that program from the depths, and he also did a great job at Toledo too, right? He didn't get that job at Iowa State out of charity. He did a great job at Toledo as well. So there are so many things to be excited about with this hire of Matt Campbell, him coming in. I do have some, I won't call them cons, but I will call them concerns, I guess.
Yes.
Maybe that's just short for con is just short for concerns. But I do have some things that I'm a little iffy on, but overall, with the way this hiring process went, with how miserable Penn State fans were at one point, I mean, you had the leaked audio too. Like, shout out to Chris Drew over at Dead Air Sports. Chris has been on this channel, at least 2 or 3 times. We love Chris; he does a great job. Go check out his channel over there. You probably have checked it out if you listen to the audio. But anyway, they all of this happened. Day 54, they finally hire Matt Campbell. And I just sat back and I was like, that's the best hire they could have made. And honestly, that's the best hire of this cycle. I think it's better than Lane Kiffin. I think it's better than John Summerall. I think it's better than all those hires. I think this is the best hire of the cycle.
Yeah. The problem with that, the only problem is the timing. Like they screwed up the timing because they
Yes.
If they do this a month ago, it doesn't affect their recruiting class. But they did it 2 days ago, which to me, there's a funny tweet. It's like, which I don't subscribe to this at all, but it's like, it's when you strike out at the bar until 2:30 a.m. and still walk out with a 10. And it's like, that's what, like, terrible.
No,
like,
but Matt Campbell's a 10. I mean,
yeah, like Matt Campbell is a 10.
Yeah.
And Pat Kraft should be fired for the way he conducted this search, but he's going to get credit for it because.
Well, I do want to get your opinion on that though, because I do subscribe to the theory, and not just the theory, because we know it's true, that James Franklin sabotaged this search in a number of ways. And I do think that Penn State fans and national people need to realize that it wasn't just Pat Kraft trying to hire here. This is also Pat Kraft trying to hire against James Franklin, trying to make sure nobody got this job or nobody took this job in multiple different ways. I mean, it's been confirmed that he talked or had people talk to different people who were head coaches or head coaching candidates for this. So while I do agree Pat Kraft did not do his best job, he had a number of mistakes. I don't think it's always the mistakes that people bring up. Like, I think it's the mistake of like, he didn't hire a GM first. He let all of James Franklin's, basically cronies stick around in the program and continue to work for James Franklin when James Franklin wasn't even there anymore. Maybe cronies is the wrong word, but you know what I'm saying? Like the guys who are loyal to him, I guess is probably a better way to say it. And so I do agree Pat Kraft made mistakes, but I also think Pat Kraft was working with different circumstances than a lot of other athletic directors have to work against here.
Yep.
So
that's fair. I still have issues with him, but
I get that. Yeah, and I get that. I'm not saying Pat Kraft did an amazing job. I don't think he did the best, but he did come out the best candidate. So
yeah, agreed.
All right, last thing here. My couple cons with this. So Matt Campbell, not the best recruiter in the world. I don't think you have to be the best recruiter in the world to recruit at Penn State. Terry Smith is sticking around. I saw that.
That's
report.
huge, by the way.
That is huge. So I don't know what kind of role he's going to be in, if it's like safeties coach or, because he was a DB coach there. But Poindexter is moving to Virginia Tech with James Franklin. So he's not going to have Poindexter back there coaching the DBs with him anymore. So that does mix things up. John Haycock is coming over with Matt Campbell, and I'm not saying that John Haycock is a bad defensive coordinator, but I don't love the 3-3-5 scheme that he runs, especially in the Big Ten. I don't. I think that the interior of many Big Ten offensive lines are too big to run a 3-3-5. Personally, I think you can run a 4-2. I think you run maybe a 3-4 if you have big enough middle linebackers. But I don't love a 3-man front, especially with only 3 linebackers behind him. But there's also some Penn State fans saying that Haycock might come in as only an analyst, and Jim Knowles might stick around. Which who knows if that happens? That would be pretty crazy. Yeah. But do you have any thoughts on concerns?
Well, and I've seen maybe some thoughts too that Haycock might retire. Like he's 65.
There was a report though that he was coming with. We just don't know exactly how. Sorry, go ahead.
I just wonder how long he'll stay at 65.
Yeah.
But I do have a concern about that defensive structure in the Big Ten.
Because John Butler just ran it and he got ran all over every single game.
Yeah. And you're gonna have to find. I mean, and we saw it with Jim Knowles, right? Jim Knowles, I think, did run a 3-3-5 at Oklahoma State, and he shifted. The famous jack position that never actually came to fruition at Ohio State, but I think he's gonna have to shift to either 4-3 or other odd man fronts.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. I don't really have anything else on the hire other than that. I mean, it's just a good hire. As Tom Fornelli says, I have no idea if it'll work out.
Yep.
Because you just never really know. But I think of all the possible hires that they could have had, this was probably the best one.
At the very least, the floor will. I think there was a potential that this could have cratered. The way that this coaching search is going. This is a high floor hire. I don't know if it's a high ceiling hire. It's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean the high ceiling hire would have been like Kalen DeBoer. I think Jeff Braun presented you with a high ceiling, but a much lower floor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I mean, you were reaching out to guys like Tommy Rees and Matt Patricia. Now, I'm not trying to say Matt Patricia would not be a good hire, but we saw what happened with the Lions, and I don't think one year as a DC is really going to fix that. So.
Well, and even Brian Hartline was a name, and I you talked about Hartline, but I thought the Hartline hire to South Florida is perfect for him. Mm-hmm. Penn State, I was like, you're gonna take someone from the Ryan Day coaching tree, and then have him go up against Ryan Day as his first job. That's a terrible idea. Don't do that. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a much better hire.
Yeah, and I think that.
Yeah, he does have Pennsylvania ties. He has connections to Iowa and Ohio, or to Pennsylvania and Ohio. While he's not the best recruiter, he does have influence in this area.
He just needs to get in the DMV.
Yep.
Honestly, it's going to make a big difference who Maryland hires after they fire Mike Locksley. Mm. And we all know that's coming. So after September, we'll see.
October 1st. Mark your calendars.
Get ready. The hot seat will be open.
Yep.
So, all right. Anything else, Zach, before we get out of here?
Nope.
You're tired. I'm tired.
I'm tired. A little sad, but also very, very excited for Indiana.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's good for the Big Ten, if nothing else. It's really, really good that Indiana was able to get to this point. Even if Indiana doesn't win at all, I at this point, Indiana's my pick to win it all. But even if they don't win it all, to still get to this point is absolutely huge for them. So
yeah, it's such a big milestone. By the way, shout out to Max, who often calls me his prince, which is a little weird. But I do. I love you, Max. But I always appreciate when I start yawning. Max gets on here and says Sleepy Zach needs a slumber. I appreciate you, man. I'm so glad that you're on here, and congrats to your Hoosiers, man.
Oh man, and Chris, this is Chris, PSU 2024 says when Penn State first reached out to Campbell, agent first time around, his agent said he was interested when the agent didn't even tell Matt. Penn State called. I saw that. I didn't know what to make of that. I don't know if that actually. I mean, I was wondering if that was like a Pat Kraft, like save myself type of deal. It's like, guys, I called and he didn't even answer. What do you guys want me to do? Like, nobody told him. But it is what it is. And then last thing we'll bring up here, Monthly Short says you guys are single-handedly redeeming the Buckeye fandom and a lot of Big Ten fans' eyes. I will say the majority of Ohio State fans are not like me and Zach.
That's true.
Yeah. But every fandom's crazy. I don't like I said, I think every fandom, when you get to a certain point, when you get to certain stuff, it is what it is. Indiana's got some crazies. Ohio State's got some crazies. Oregon's got some crazies.
Yeah.
Michigan's got some crazies. Michigan State has got some crazies. I remember when Michigan State was good at football. I was on Twitter at that time. You want to talk about the crazies? Michigan State's got them too. Every fan base has them.
Yeah, and then you get alcohol in them, and and then it's just
perfect storm.
Yeah, no, just walk away. Walk away. Don't respond to that tweet.
Exactly. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Thank you for helping fund my family's trip to Disney. And we just so grateful for you, and can't wait to cover the postseason and be on the Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State hype train the entire way. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We appreciate it. Have a good one.